So, I guess it's time to address the TX2K.
I wake up, flex on down that check. No drip is wet, tell 'em run it on. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell 'em run it on.
Alright guys, so earlier talked about all the piping we had to order for the new turbo kit. So some 2.5 inch stainless steel, some tight radius, some regular, tons of intercooler piping, 4 inch aluminum is what we're doing, and then we transition it to a 3.5 inch I think on the throttle body. But yeah, all the hot side stuff from the headers to the turbo, that's gonna be 2.5 inch stainless steel, which is this stuff right here. And then I'll show you guys what else we got. Like I said, it's gonna be 4 inch cold side piping, so just set this all out. So this is about, I think with shipping it was 530 bucks. So shipping is obviously a lot because there's a lot of pipes in here. But I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of how much stuff you need and kind of, you know, what goes into building a custom turbo kit. Or you wonder why turbo kits are so expensive? Well, it's a lot of material. And this is all from High Performance, and it's all American made steel and aluminum. That's why Joe and I typically order from them or someone similar. I typically would order from Motion Raceworks, but they don't have any tight radius, and we needed a lot of tight radius stuff. The tight radius, such as this pipe, is where the stuff gets real expensive, but that's 4 inch aluminum. That's also 4 inch aluminum. So that'll be used to make the cold side. And this piece it's by itself was $80. But that's a 180 tight radius 4 inch aluminum, I believe. So I think that's it. There might be one more piece. Nope, that's it. So all these pieces right here are going to be the pieces that come off the headers that go to the exhaust side on the turbo, the outlet side, and then those pieces are going to be made to work with the cold side piping, so from the intake manifold to the intercooler, and then the other side of the intercooler to the inlet of the turbo. So that's what we have so far. Like I said, that was 530 bucks shipped, and we may need more. So that's always the fun part, is ordering more. And then I'm gonna go show you guys the downpipe kit that I have in the back. So I pretty much have everything else for the car. I think I've shown you guys the fuel cell that I got. This is the new one. I used to have a fuel cell ice tank combo from P&R, but since we removed the ice tank for the air to water, we just have the fuel cell from P&R. Got this nice billet lid on it. Takes a stock hat, which is really cool. If you guys want to, P&R doesn't sponsor me or anything, but the guy's super cool over there. Anytime I need a custom fuel cell or ice tank, he makes it to the exact spec I want. And it's cool because it can use a stock fuel hat. What I don't think I've showed you guys yet, but I did post on Instagram when I got it, is I got this brand new M&M shifter. Super nice. These are literally the best shifter in the game. They're really expensive, but this piece is worth it. It's got air shifter already built into it. So that's 2-speed power glide shifter, obviously, to make one for Turbo 400. Got my oil ready. That's not my break-in oil. That's the oil I'm gonna use after break-in, so we'll save that for after. Motion Raceworks catch can, Motion Raceworks CO2. Fuel pumps are in there. Everything's ready to go. But this is the downpipe kit from High Performance. So it comes with a V-band flange, O2 sensor bung, and this is all aluminum. I want to say this kit's like 300. This is 5 inch. That's why it looks so damn big. Freaking massive. So this is 5 inch. We don't know where the exhaust is going yet, so they always send obviously this much exhaust because they don't know where you're doing your exhaust, whether it's a hood exit, fender exit, whatever. But this will typically be enough for like a fender, bumper exit, or a hood exit. But yeah, this is like, I want to say this is like a $300 kit, which isn't bad, but it's 5 inch aluminum. And this one right here is a thicker gauge because that one comes right off of the exhaust. So you want the thicker gauge coming right off the exhaust. And then the other two can be regular gauge aluminum because it doesn't get as hot. But the pipe that comes directly off the exhaust side, It's got to be a little bit thicker. Aluminum does just fine as an exhaust. We've used it plenty of times, but you have to use the thicker stuff coming right off the exhaust. And then, like I said, V-band flange and the O2 sensor.
So, I guess it's time to address the TX2K event thing, place I should be leaving to. So it's Tuesday. It's, I wouldn't be leaving till tomorrow. We're still 10 hours. A lot of people think we're close to Houston. We're still 10 hours from Houston. So it's not an easy, it's an easy drive, but it's not a short drive. I mean, 10 hours is pretty long. I'm sure there's people traveling way further, but we're in the same state as TX2K and it's still 10 hours away. That's Texas for you. Anyways, at this point, you've probably figured out that we are not going to TX2K, which is true. You know, backtrack a little bit. So I torched the heads, blew the head gasket back, I think it was the first weekend of November. I pulled the engine, got it shipped out to Will within a week and a half. He had it after that, and at that point he pulled the engine apart. I think week after that, it was around Thanksgiving time by the time he pulled it apart, or right before Thanksgiving. Realized the head was torched. We thought it was just the head gaskets at the time. Realized the heads were torched, or one head was torched, and Frankenstein, we were gonna send the heads to them to get ported anyways. Shout out JR. So we ended up sending the heads over there. In the meantime, the block just stayed at RPG, and so the heads got to Frankenstein. Obviously, they're super busy, so they actually pushed me way ahead of where they should have put me at, which was awesome. They were willing to help out. They knew I was trying to make TX2K, so they tried to help me out and put me as far ahead as they could, which was super awesome of them. And the quality of the heads, it looks awesome. I can't wait to run the car and see how much power we can make with those heads, how much they actually help. It's gonna be awesome. Really excited about that. So, you know, those took some time. Heads got back to RPG. RPG had to order some parts to finish the heads. Had to replace a rod and a piston in my engine, in the block. You know, clean everything up, reassemble, do all that. Got the engine back a little bit later than we expected. Weather, parts, all adds up. You guys know the deal. And so in the meantime, we had done the rear end, but then we couldn't finish the rear end because we needed the weight of the engine and the trans in to get the anti-roll bar set up correctly for the ride height. So we were waiting on that. So we really didn't finish the rear end. Everything else was done though. The axle was in there, all the brackets were welded in, control arms were set around where they need to be. Got the wheels figured out. We had to do some massaging of the inner fender wells. Got the brake lines done, which probably need to be bled a few more times, but we got everything pretty much set up, ready to go. The only thing we needed to add in the rear was the anti-roll bar once we got the engine and trans. Engine and trans show up, and the biggest obstacle besides, you know, the turbo kit and all that stuff was the wiring. So Chase and I, as you guys have seen, we've been working on the wiring. You saw part of this video. We've been trying to finish up the wiring, and we're almost done. There's just a ton of it, and we're trying to fit it all in that back corner and reroute some stuff. We definitely could have done a cleaner job. We actually did a lot of cleaning up of the wires. There's so much stuff that is unused in that harness. It's so ridiculous. I should have gone standalone at this point, like Holley or Fuel Tech or Motec or any one of those, but at this point I've done so much to the car that I just don't want the car down any longer than it has to be. So at this point, the car's been down since November. It's now March. If I added a standalone, we'd be looking like at another month of getting the parts here, wiring, all that stuff, getting it figured out, tuned. It's just a whole nother headache that I just don't want to add on right now because I really want to be racing the car. So we're gonna run the stock ECU. So we've been trying to clean up the harness, reroute some stuff because now we have the tubed front end. So we tried to move the fuse box back and the actual PCM back while everything could still reach for the most part. So there's probably 8 to 10 plugs that we actually needed to extend. So we've been working on extending those. Had to extend the alternator and the starter wire because we routed them differently, tried to clean everything up. So we're pretty close. I mean, there's like a few more wires, but we are pretty close on the wiring. The front end got fully welded. There's 2 spots Joe has to finish welding. But for the most part, the tubed front end is done. And then, so bring you up to speed, we went to mount the turbo because that's how we're going to start the turbo kit. We're going to mount the turbo first and then build everything around that because there's a lot of room up front, but with how big the turbo is, and we're trying to fit an intercooler, a big air-to-air, and then we're trying to fit a radiator in there, streetcar shit. It actually takes up a lot more room than you think, and you got to think of bends and degrees and all that stuff. So anyways, we go to mount the turbo, realize the turbo mount is literally like, I don't know, 200 thousandths off, maybe. It's really small. I can't even remember, but it was a really small number. So I had to get a new turbo mount. By the time we figured that out, it was already like Friday. Huge thanks to Maven. They worked as quickly as they could to get us out the correct turbo mount. And so it should be here today or tomorrow, so we can actually start mounting the turbo. And then Joe can build a turbo kit really quickly, actually. Once he figures out where the turbo is gonna go, like after that, he can build a hot side real quick. He can build the cradle for the intercooler to sit in and the radiator, which we'll go through that once we build everything. Kind of show you how we're gonna support everything. And he can do that stuff pretty quick. It's, you know, now we need the turbo mount. If we had the turbo mount, man, we would have got so much done this weekend. We probably would have had the hot side at least tacked up, but not having the turbo mount, we didn't touch the car all weekend because there was just nothing really to do besides little piddly shit. So didn't get that done. We did figure out we needed shorter links for the anti-roll bar. So because this weekend we're like, all right, we don't have the turbo mount. Let's finish up the rear end since all the weight's in the front now. We can finish the rear end with the anti-roll bar. Go to mount the anti-roll bar, figure out the end links are just a little too long. But I reached out to TRZ, super awesome guys over there. Todd's been really helping me out over there, and any questions I have, he answers them like super quickly, which is really nice of them. And so they 2-dayed some shorter links for me, so those will be here tomorrow. So it's just been time, man. It's just, with all the stuff going on in the world this year, parts have been hard to get, and timing has just been terrible and everything, and that's just part of it right now. So the answer of going to TX2K is no. And I'm not an emotional person, but I'm not like sad, but I'm more like disappointed. Like I feel like I let you guys down by not going, and I feel like I let myself down and my friends. And like when I went to TX2K last year, that was the first time I ever raced my car at the track at TX2K. It was such a cool experience, but at the same time, that's when COVID happened, so there's no spectators, so I didn't get the full experience of racing in front of like 25,000 people. But it was cool because I got to meet a lot of you guys, meet a lot of cool people in the Mustang community that I look up to. And same thing when I went to FL2K. It was such an awesome experience. Had some issues with the car, but we figured those out, went some rounds, had some fun, made my personal best down there in 3,000 freaking DA in the humid heat of Florida. But it was so awesome. Like I got to meet again a lot of people in the Mustang community that I look up to and that have like they're years ahead of me on the Coyote game. And so it's cool to meet all those people in person and race side by side with them. And it was just a really good time. So that's what I was really looking forward to with 2K this year, because they're allowing spectators back. They've allowed the most cars they've ever allowed in the street racer class. And it was just gonna be a good time, and I was really looking forward to it. I think this year at the track is gonna be one of the biggest years at TX2K, but unfortunately, some things just don't work out like they're supposed to. So I don't know exactly what race we're shooting for. I'm kind of gonna put a schedule together of races I wanna go to once the car's finished, because I gotta work around my work schedule, and then I gotta work around the flashlight shootout schedule. Since we didn't have the one in Dallas in February, we've now moved it to July 31st. So that takes up a weekend in the summer when I could be racing. So I'm gonna build a schedule once the car's actually finished. Like we'll probably go test it. We're gonna need probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 test sessions to like really dial it in. And even then we'll still be dialing in the setup, you know, throughout the season. But I think with 3 or 4, you know, test sessions, we can get a good handle on the suspension, get a good handle on boost ramp and all that with the new setup. And then we'll get full-on racing and we'll start traveling again. Dallas, Oklahoma, Houston. I'm definitely gonna hit FL2K again in October. So unfortunately can't make TX2K this year, but I will promise you this before I close out the video. I will promise you this. I already told Joe this. I will not this is really hard to say. I will not make any huge changes to the car after November. Literally, I will only maintain the car or do slightly small upgrades that only take a couple days. So The reason why everything took so long is I thought the engine was just gonna have to be refreshed, and so we sent the engine off. Then we decided to port the heads. Then I decided to do a bigger turbo. Then I decided to do a straight axle in the rear. Then I decided to tube the front. Then I decided to switch from a Turbo 400 to a Power Glide. Then I decided to switch the shifter, switch this, that. I mean, I switched so many freaking things. This is like a brand new car all over again. And so I'll promise you this, I will not make any massive changes after November, because I figure if I don't make big changes in November, like even if I have to send the engine off to get refreshed for next year, you know, just do bearings and things like that, the car won't be down very long, a couple weeks. But when you make these huge changes like these, oh my gosh, it's terrible. It's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. So that's why I haven't gone standalone, because I know that's just like another huge project that's just gonna get added on. So no huge changes after November next year, because I want to make TX2K every year with this car from now on. I love that event. It's so much fun. It's a good time. There's a lot of really fast cars out there. The classes are super competitive, and it's just a good environment to be around. FL2K is the exact same way. It's a super good environment. Street car takeover is that way. Flashlight shootout. I mean, all these races are just so much fun. There's a lot of local, smaller races, but those are like my go-tos right there. The FL2K, TX2K, any street car takeover that's within like 10 hours of driving distance. And then there's like a lot of local shootouts that always pop up that are really fun. But those are like my go-tos, and I really like to make sure my car is ready for those. So I apologize to you guys for not making TX2K this year, and I promise you that we will be there next year. And just stick along for the build, because this car is going to be insane once we're finished and get it figured out. And we're going to travel, and we're going to race a ton, and we're going to make up for it. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the notifications when new videos are posted, because we've got tons of content coming, and we're going to get this damn car finished. See you guys on the next one.